2 months, one day, and of course I'm over exaggerating. We're back.
We're back. Brick on brick.
Brick on brick. How does it feel, man?
It feels great, man. It really does. It's been a little bit, you and I've been doing some things together, some big things together that we share not on necessarily on this podcast, but on another podcast. But I think this is an important podcast because we want to talk about the real estate market and how it's really going to affect the Gen X and the Gen Zs, I believe they are called.
Yeah.
And it's a crying, terrible shame out here, and what's happening is, unfortunately,
before you even go in there, let me ask you a question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it's still now a good time to be able to buy a house?
I don't.
Because a lot of people, like, I remember, man, a couple years ago, and I didn't mean to cut you off and remember that thought, right? But I remember a couple years ago, man, people was, like, even your guy, Grant Cardone, man, was saying, hey, it's better to actually rent and never really own the house. And a lot of people kind of fell into that trap. And then now when people are looking to buy a house, they can't. And so, go ahead.
Well, hold on. Let me cut you off for a minute. I believe what he meant was when he said rent. See, his corporation owned the house. He rented from his corporation. You know how the saying goes, own nothing but control everything. So yeah, so he was renting, and it makes sense. So the house that he was renting, the money that he was paying paid the mortgage, but it was all a tax write-off. Because then he would take that money and do different things with the money, to be able to get all that money back in taxes. So yes, he's telling you this is never a good time to buy. It's always a good time to rent. But I believe what he's not telling you is own it indirectly and rent from your business.
So you see this little gray here in my beard right now? You see it? Right? It means that I was born that night, but I wasn't born last night. That guy didn't say that. He didn't say that, man. I'm sorry. He did not say that. He pretty much meant it. What's the point of actually sitting on the house and buying the house? And this is not about him, right? So I don't want to make it about him. But I specifically remember him saying buying a house is pretty much having dead cash. You don't get to actually, it's better to actually buy and rent out or to rent property because you want to be able to move away and move around, throughout the country or throughout the world of where the opportunity is best at. And so what happened is that I get what you're saying, right? You're very smart. You're very intelligent. You understand real estate, right? You're a homeowner. I'm a homeowner. And so we understand the premise behind it. Like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to buy it or, buy a property that you can rent out so you can move forward. But at the end of the day, that's not what was being said. And so to move back to your point, right? And I didn't want to hijack your point or hijack your thoughts. But a survey came out to say that in the state of California, you actually need to make $210,000 a year to be able to afford a 3-bedroom house. In Florida, $130,000. In the state of West Virginia, which actually would seem like the best, $79,000. And so what I'm saying to you is, you have those pockets of places within the United States that are cheap right now, but for the most part, man, it's almost nearly impossible to buy a home at this moment.
So let me ask you this. Do you think Grant Cardone don't have ownership in some way of places where he stays? Every single house he owns,
he's a billionaire.
He has every single house he owns. I can just about guarantee it's owned by some sort of corporation that he controls.
But I think you missed my point, right? It's one thing to say it, and it's one thing to be okay. So it's like this, right? It's one thing to be able to paint the image as buying a house is dead cash, but I'm the person, but I'm still a person that's sitting on a lot of real estate portfolios so I can rent for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus the message that people who doesn't have the smarts get in their head, right? It's almost like saying, hey, McDonald's is terrible. McDonald's isn't something that you should own, right? or McDonald's is good to eat. McDonald's is something that you should own, right? But the only reason that you're saying it is because you own about 5 McDonald's franchises. So it's like the message that you convey out to people is a different message that some people actually get in their brain, and they may not understand the concept of why you're saying what you're saying. And the reason that we brought this up is that I truly believe, man, that we're in a world that most people are going to be renters, right? And that's what they're stuck doing. And we all know that by renting, you don't gain equity. You're not able to actually build a portfolio. You're not able to actually make your money work for you. But I digress on all of that right now to you.
Well, I mean, think about it. Put two and two together, and you see these gray hairs.
Yeah.
That's called season. So when I
Okay.
get two and two, I get four. The
Okay.
average mortgage, and let's use Florida because I know you mentioned Florida. Okay, the average mortgage is about 3,000. Let's say 2,700. Let's say $2,700. The
When
average
when the
throughout the
hood?
state. No, throughout the
When the
state.
hood? Okay.
Okay. And you know what you absolutely right because interest rate went up. So let's say the average mortgage right now. Can I push it to 3,600?
Please.
Okay. The average mortgage is 3,600. The average rent, I know this because my mother lives in Florida and and the people next door is paying $2,300 a month
Yeah. In
for a
Tampa,
house.
most people is paying around 2,700, 2,800
Okay.
for rent. So yeah, that sounds about accurate.
So it's designed that the majority does not have any extra liquid income to buy a house. It's designed that way. If we push the rent up, they can't save enough to buy a home. Because if they buy a home, what happens to me? And not me per se, but what happens to me? If my renters leave to go buy a house, that means that I don't get their money anymore. That's lost income. Uh, I can't acquire their wealth because it's all about acquiring other people's wealth to make yourself wealthy.
Hmm. I seen something just 2 days ago, man. I was messing around on Zillow, right? I seen something where it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom condo in Miami. I think it was in like Brickell area. If you don't know about Brickell, that's like the key area, right? And I'm talking about the floors was messed up, the kitchen cabinets was horrible, everything. Like the place was garbage. $675,000 for one.
Watch this. If you go to New York, Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
you probably couldn't even find anything that cheap that looks like that. You take that same place, you put it in Manhattan, New York, and that thing might and that thing might be $1 million.
Wow.
And think of California. Think of California. California
Mm-hmm.
and New York, they're running neck and neck. And I'm gonna say Miami as well. But California and New York is running neck and neck on the two most expensive areas in the country. And then we go to
Yeah.
Miami. Miami's right there though.
Well, what's funny, man? I think you know my story very well, right? I bought a house, bought multiple houses now, but I bought a house in Africa, right? And one of the reasons that I bought a house in Africa was I knew the bang for my buck was going to be a lot better, right?
Hmm.
And so, you know, I'm not saying for everybody to have some type of mass exodus or migration over to another country, but I can be able to tell you, man, especially in like a city like Miami, man, that been the cheat code for a while now. Like you have immigrants, that will come over from different countries, or you even have people that's born here for, the second generation, right, immigrant, and they would work, they would save money, and they would end up buying a house and in their home country or where their parents or grandparents are from, and they would go over and once they get to retirement age, 60, 65 years old, they have money in a 401k, they have money in a savings account, stock account, and now they live a good life because their house is already paid off, they got money saved up. And so I'm not saying do that, but I'm looking at, like, if you don't want to live in a very country area, like maybe a West Virginia, or I can't even say Kentucky because even the price in Kentucky is high right now. But it seems like you actually might be in a position. You may be in a position where you can't save up enough money to buy a house in a city that you desire. And the reason that means a lot is if you live in New York, of course you're going to get paid way more than somebody that's living in, say, in Detroit, right? Or if you living in Miami, you're going to get paid more than somebody who's living in a Tampa, right? Even a Tampa, a city that's in the same state. And so, what do you do? You want to make a good money, right? But you don't want to go to an area where, I mean, excuse me, you want to buy a nice house, but you don't want to go to an area where you don't make a lot of money because it's kind of like a wash right there. So what do people do? Educate them, man.
You know, let me say this.
Hmm.
It's one thing educating the people, but it's one thing of the ones that gets educated actually doing it. So I'm gonna say this. In my opinion, to get the biggest bang for your buck, stop, stop buying things that you don't need. Look around your house. First of all, start saving. Have a goal, have a plan. Start saving. Go around your house. If you haven't used it, watch this word. Give a free yard sale. Get rid of it. Stop acquiring so much junk. Because I guarantee the majority of the stuff that you bought, you're not even using it. Yes, you got a microwave, you're using that. You got a toaster oven, you got an oven, you got a stove, wash machine, dryer. But how many things do you just acquire that's taken acquire and that's taken away from your savings so you can go out there and purchase a home? Take that money, put it in something, put it in the S&P or something like that, and grow that money. Put it somewhere, make it grow, do something constructive with your money. Because at the end of the day, if nothing changes, guess what? Nothing changes.
Can I play God's advocate really quick?
Absolutely.
Well, what if you are in a city like New York?
Hmm.
Rent is already sky high.
Hmm.
You're barely getting anything for that. You got a child, daycare costs as much as 3 days pay. You go to the grocery store. You go to the grocery store, and I'm right by the airport, right? But you go to the grocery store. You spend a couple $100, and you walk out with a couple bags of food. How are you saving that money? Because you're saying spending, right? But I don't think everybody has that expensive taste as you're putting on, right? I don't think everybody's out there buying Chanel bags and Gucci belts, and maybe you have some irresponsible people like that. But I don't truly believe that that is the mass of people that's out there just wasting money just like that.
So let me say this to you then.
Yeah.
You get yourself with two or three other people that you love and you trust, and you all moving together. Yes, you all have children, and that's okay. You rent a four-bedroom place somewhere or whatever needs to be done. All the kids sleep in one room. Everybody, if everybody happen to have different shifts, everybody help each other out, and everybody helping each other help you out. You're helping yourself out because now you're renting. Everybody make a commitment. We all going to help each other get up. We all going to help each other save. You ready for this, bro? And
Mhm.
then you save enough money, then you all buy a big house together. And then you help the next person buy the house. Then you help the next person buy a house. See, this is what we're not doing that other people are doing. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
If we will learn to work together, we can get through this together. But the problem is, we don't want to work together. And until then, we're always going to be crabs in a barrel.
But I don't want to say that it's a black thing though, man, or
No, no, no,
even
no, no, no.
I don't.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying as a people, as people in general, because this is not just
You're
affecting
talking about
black people.
Americans, so you're talking about
Americans, yes,
Americans as okay,
Americans,
okay.
yes, Americans. Now,
Hmm.
some communities, they do this. We all go stay together until we all can get a house. We
Okay.
all go put our money in. We all watch this. We all going to go to the auction together and get a house, and we're going to work on that house. And when our house is fixed up, and then we're going to give this person a house, and then we all going to take money again and go to the auction and buy another house until everyone is comfortable in a house. But Americans, I don't care what you are, Chinese American, Black American, white American, it doesn't matter. Americans in general, okay? We got to figure this thing out, because if you don't figure this thing out, you're going to get deeper and deeper into this hole, and you're going to be renters for the rest of your life. You say
I
you want
think
more, so start creating more.
I think the real fear that a lot of people have is that they will never be able to own. Right?
I get it. I get it.
There's a lot of people in their 50s and 60s right now that just absolutely gave up on their dream. And the crazy part about it was, in their 20s, they had the American dream, right?
Mhm.
And to that point, I actually seen a survey that asked people, what is the American dream? Or it was they asked people between the ages of 18 to 30, and they asked, what is the American dream for them? And the American dream for them
Was to have a house.
was actually starting a business. It wasn't buying a house. It was actually
Right.
starting a business.
Start a business. Yes. Yes.
Starting a business that generates enough income that they don't have.
Uh-oh. Well, I think he was going to say starting a business that generates enough income that they don't have to work, and then having their business fund their expenses, such as a house, such as a car. It don't necessarily have to be a big house, don't necessarily have to be a small, a lavish car, but something that maybe they did not see that their parents had or was able to do in their life and growing up, and even maybe buy their parents a house and buy their parents a car. Which makes sense. But right now, the American dream is being diminished as the days go on, as the hours go on, as the minutes go on, and it's really it's heartbreaking.
I heard
Because
everything you
then,
said, and no, that wasn't what I was saying at all. And I appreciate that, but I love it. I love it, man, that you was able to pick up on my thoughts. What I was going to say is actually start a business that's automated and they can travel the world and live abroad. That's actually what the survey said.
okay, but let's just keep it real. The majority of the people, regardless of the survey, the majority of the people, the reason why they want to start a business, the reason why they want something to pay, because they may not have grown up or were brought up in a lifestyle that they dream of. So the first thing they're going to do is when they get a piece of money, it doesn't matter if you see the sport, the athletes. What's the first thing the athletes do? They buy their parents a house. When people get a business and make a lot of money, what's the first thing they do? They buy their parents a house. They buy their parents a car. It's all about taking care of the parents because they know their parents struggled and did what they had to do to make sure that they are where they are today. So it's all about the parents. And then from there, and then you start thinking about yourself. So I believe, but see, as I was about to say, or as I probably did say, the American dream is being diminished. And it's being diminished on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a minute basis. Because of what's going on here. You're seeing everything. Everything is what do you call it? Groom and bloom, or how does that saying go?
Honestly, David, I think about this with American Dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be careful because people may want to come at my head and call me names, right? But here's what I feel about the American Dream. I think the American Dream is just too expensive right now. I think it's unattainable for some people because we just have very expensive taste.
I don't agree. I think the American dream is what you want is what you make it. Because if you think the American dream is too expensive, that means you're not reaching high enough.
Mm-hmm.
Making sense?
Yeah.
If you think the American dream is unattainable, that means you're looking too far down and not far enough up. See, I personally don't think the American dream is too expensive because I already know where I'm going. I already know where I come from, and I already know where I'm at, and I already know where I'm going from here. But the people that has it that let me say this, and I mentioned this before, it's all about who's in your circle. Because if you in your circle, if all of y'all is always talking about doom and gloom, that's the word I'm looking for. Doom and gloom. Then guess what? That's the only thing you're going to think about is doom and gloom. You know, this is too expensive. I can't afford this. I wish I could do that, or this or that. If that's your circle, then be it. But I choose not to have that in my circle. So the American dream is whatever you make it. It's up to you. You're right, and you're always going to be right. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Who am I to tell you anything different?
And on that note, brother, we'll be back again. And we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Brick by Brick with Terrell Clayton and David Reed. Appreciate you,
Brick
brother.
by brick, love.
Well.